Welcome back to my channel. December's here, which means it's once again time to talk about my most anticipated movies of the month. Before I begin, let me know in the comments which movies this month you are looking forward to seeing, and make sure to give this a thumbs up if you enjoy these videos, because it helps me out immensely if you do that. Also, if you're new here and you like movies, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of the movies on this list and more. Something to keep in mind, as always, this will be in order of release date and will not be ranked by how much I'm anticipating each movie. This is also not a comprehensive list of everything coming out this month, and there will be movies released that aren't on this list that I'll still review. These are just the ones that are highest on my radar. However, with this being the final month of this year, finally, it always means that we get a lot more crammed in than usual. Even with a pandemic, we're still getting a ton of stuff between the festival hits, blockbusters going to streaming, and potential awards contenders. I normally keep these lists to 10 movies, but with so much still getting released, we're going to do 15 this time, and I'm still leaving movies off. Also, several of these movies are scheduled to have theater-only releases. I double-checked them all to make sure that's still the case, and I know things are starting to be up in the air again, and I'm sure things may change down to the last second, so we'll see what happens. But let's not waste any more time and jump right in. Kicking things off is Black Bear. Aubrey Plaza stars as a filmmaker who goes on a retreat with a couple played by Christopher Abbott and Sarah Gadon, where she attempts to escape her past, only for her inner demons to come back to haunt her in the most unusual ways. Written and directed by Lawrence Michael Levine, whose other films I haven't seen, but I have noticed have been positively reviewed. This one looks like it'll be a wild ride. The trailer does a good job of giving us an idea of what we're in for without spoiling too much. A lot of the shots we get are pretty quick, though it looks like Aubrey Plaza is going to wreak havoc on this couple's life. It seems to be a mix of dark comedy with some thriller elements thrown in there, which makes me very excited as I'm a big fan of Aubrey Plaza, and I'm looking forward to seeing her step out of her comfort zone, especially after having just seen her in Happiest Season last month. It played at Sundance earlier this year and received a lot of critical acclaim, so all the more reason I'm looking forward to it. It'll be out on VOD on the 4th. I'm Your Woman stars Rachel Brosnahan as a woman in the 1970s who's forced to go on the run along with her baby after her husband betrays his business partners, sending her on a dangerous journey. This is written and directed by Julia Hart, who also made one of the most underrated movies of last year, Fast Color. And she also released another film this year, Disney's Stargirl, which I wasn't a big fan of. But given that this is a return to original territory for her, I have some high hopes for this. I'm not all that familiar with Brosnahan. I know she's the star of The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Unfortunately, I haven't seen that show yet, but I know it's very well liked, and so is she. It played at AFI Fest in October and received positive reviews there. Plus, it looks like it'll be a stylish thriller with a throwback feel that should be fairly exciting. It gets a limited theatrical release on the 4th, followed by an Amazon Prime release on the 11th. The Prom focuses on a troupe of self-obsessed theater stars who swarm a small town in Indiana to show their support of a high school girl who wishes to take her girlfriend to prom after their band. This is based on the Broadway musical of the same name and contains an all-star cast that includes Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman, Kerry Washington, James Corden, Keegan-Michael Key, among many others. And it's directed by Ryan Murphy, the man behind so many TV shows that include Glee, American Horror Story, and most recently, Ratched. Truthfully, I'm not exactly a big fan of his work, but I do like musicals and I do like this cast. It seems like a light-hearted, somewhat silly good time, and honestly, with the way this year's been, we could all use a movie like this. Do I expect it to be one of the best of the year? Not at all, but I think it will be a lot of fun, so it'll be out on Netflix on the 11th. Wolfwalkers focuses on a young apprentice hunter named Robin who journeys to Ireland with her father to wipe out the last wolf pack. There, she befriends a free-spirited girl from a mysterious tribe rumored to transform into wolves by night. This is the latest film by Cartoon Saloon, whose films I haven't seen, but I really need to jump on that because I realized that all 3 of their previous films have been nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, and based on what I've been hearing about this so far, it's almost guaranteed that this will also get nominated. This has received nothing but critical acclaim, and it's not hard to see why, based on the trailer. The animation looks absolutely stunning, especially being, like their other films, a rare 2D animated movie in a time where those are close to non-existent. And despite the fantasy setting, the story looks like it'll be a highly emotional one, so I think we're in for something spectacular here. This actually had a limited theatrical release last month, which I didn't realize when I was putting together my most anticipated list for November, otherwise I would have spoken about it then, but it does get an Apple TV Plus release on the 11th. Another Round focuses on 4 friends, all of whom are high school teachers, who test a theory that they will improve their lives by maintaining a constant level of alcohol in their blood. This is written and directed by Thomas Vinterberg and stars Mads Mikkelsen as one of the 4 friends, which is the main reason why I'm excited about this one, as he is just an excellent actor. He was a one-man show in the film Arctic last year, which was great, and even though the focus isn't just on him this time, he's proved he's someone who can truly carry a film. And this looks like it's going to be all over the place, but I mean that in a good way. While the trailer gives the impression that this will be somewhat funny, its reviews from TIFF suggest that while it can be funny, we're actually in for a very effective drama. And this was even chosen as Denmark's entry for the Academy Awards. So this gets a VOD release on the 18th. The Father stars Anthony Hopkins as an aging man who refuses any and all assistance from his daughter, played by Olivia Colman. And as he tries to make sense of his changing circumstances, he begins to doubt his loved ones, his own mind, and even the fabric of his reality. This is the feature debut of director Florian Zeller, who also co-wrote the screenplay, and it's based on his play of the same name. This film looks like it's going to be one of the most emotional experiences of the year, as it looks to be a very tender portrayal of the struggles of dementia. It looks incredibly sad, and I'm sure it'll be something that will resonate with a lot of people who may know someone who went through a similar experience. It played at Sundance back in January and has received critical acclaim, especially for, unsurprisingly, Anthony Hopkins' performance, who I'm sure will get easily nominated along with Coleman. It gets a limited theatrical release on the 18th, followed by a wider release on the 25th. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom stars Viola Davis as Ma Rainey, the legendary blues singer who gets into a battle of wills over control of her music during a recording session in 1920 Chicago. When she's late to the session, her trumpet player, played by Chadwick Boseman, spurs his fellow musicians into an eruption of stories, truths, and lies that will forever change the course of their lives. Directed by George C. Wolfe, produced by Denzel Washington, and based on the play of the same name by August Wilson, who also wrote the play Fences, this film has especially gained a lot of notoriety due to the fact that it's the final film by the late Chadwick Boseman before he sadly passed away over the summer. And it looks like his final film is also one of his best, as he's received nothing but praise for his role, as did Davis. The film's production design also looks to be top-notch, as it feels like we're really transported back to the 1920s, and its story mainly takes place in one room. So this is sure to be a tense, claustrophobic 90 minutes that will give us a lot of fantastic character drama. This was another film that got a November limited theatrical release, which I missed, but it's out on Netflix on the 18th. The Midnight Sky is a post-apocalyptic tale that stars George Clooney as a lonely scientist in the Arctic who races to stop a group of astronauts, led by Felicity Jones, from returning home where a global catastrophe awaits them. Based on a novel called Good Morning Midnight, Clooney's also directing this one, with a screenplay by Mark L. Smith, who also co-wrote the screenplay for Overlord and The Revenant. And I'll be honest, Clooney as a director has been somewhat hit and miss. On one hand, films such as Good Night and Good Luck and The Ides of March were both great, but on the other hand, he didn't have as much luck with films like Suburbicon and The Monuments Men. And the trailer, to be honest, looked fine. From a technical standpoint, it looks beautiful, and it's got a great cast, but it didn't blow me away. It didn't do anything wrong, but from a story perspective, it seems like just another post-apocalyptic drama. I could be wrong, though. It seems like this is Clooney's most ambitious project yet, and I know he has it in him to make a great movie, so I'm hoping for the best. It has a Netflix release on the 23rd. News of the World stars Tom Hanks as a Civil War veteran who agrees to deliver a girl, played by Helena Zengel, taken years ago to her aunt and uncle against her will. They travel hundreds of miles and face grave dangers as they search for a place they can call home. Based on the novel of the same name, this is directed by Paul Greengrass, who also co-wrote the screenplay, and it's the second collaboration between him and Hanks after Captain Phillips, though this is a much different change of pace from that film, going from action thriller to more of an adventure drama. Considering Greengrass mainly works in thrillers, this will be him slightly out of his comfort zone, but given his effectiveness as a director, as well as Hanks always being reliable, I'm sure this will be fine, and given everyone who's involved, it could be a potential awards contender. This gets a theatrical release in the US on the 25th, but if you live outside of the US, it actually gets a Netflix release everywhere else on the same day. One Night in Miami is a fictional account of one incredible night where icons Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, and Jim Brown gathered, discussing their roles in the civil rights movement and the cultural upheaval of the 60s. Based on the play of the same name, this is directed by Regina King in her feature debut Behind the Camera, and is written by Kemp Powers, who also wrote the play, as well as another film on this list, which we'll talk about shortly. And this has been all the buzz since it hit the festival circuit back in September, receiving nothing but critical praise. The trailer didn't reveal too much, and I'm not familiar with the play, but based on the plot synopsis given, I'm sure this film will be very timely. It also contains some excellent casting choices to play these larger-than-life figures. I'm not as familiar with Kingsley Ben-Adir and Eli Gorey, who play Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali respectively, but Aldous Hodge, who plays Jim Brown, is great, especially after having appeared in both Clemency last year and The Invisible Man this year. And Leslie Odom Jr. as Sam Cooke should be a joy to see. After finally having seen Hamilton this year, I'm looking forward to whatever he does next. This gets a limited theatrical release on the 25th before getting an Amazon Prime release on January 15th. Promising Young Woman stars Carey Mulligan as someone whose life is interrupted by a tragic event that left her traumatized, though things aren't all as they appear to be, as she also lives a secret double life by night, and an unexpected encounter one night gives her the chance to right some some of the wrongs from her past. This is written and directed by Emerald Fennell in her feature debut, after an extensive television career that most notably includes Killing Eve. This was actually supposed to premiere back in April before the pandemic hit, and was pulled until now, partially with the hopes that Carey Mulligan will get some awards recognition. And she seems like she's going to be great here, judging by the trailer, which also suggests the film contains a lot of social commentary in the form of a dark comedy revenge thriller. It also has a great supporting cast that includes Bo Burnham, Alison Brie, Clancy Brown, and many others. It looks like it'll be a wild ride with plenty to say. This hits theaters on the 25th. Soul stars the voice of Jamie Foxx as Joe Gardner, a middle school teacher who finally gets to fulfill his lifelong wish of performing jazz on stage. However, when an accident causes his soul to separate from his body, he now has to work his way back to Earth and reunite with his body so that he doesn't die. While I don't rank these movies in order of anticipation, this is the one I'm most looking forward to out of everything on this list. It even made my now irrelevant most anticipated movies of the year list back at the start of this year, and there shouldn't be much to explain here as to why, but it's Pixar, and it's written and directed by Pete Docter, who gave us one of Pixar's finest films, Inside Out, and Kemp Powers, who wrote the previously mentioned One Night in Miami, also co-wrote this with Docter. This has so much going for it based on the trailer, between its themes about life and death, its stunning animation, the fact that Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor composed the score, and the stunning voice cast that, in addition to Fox, also includes Tina Fey, Felicia Rashad, Questlove, Daveed Diggs, and Angela Bassett. This looks like it's going to be Pixar at its finest, and the early reviews have backed that up. It hits Disney Plus on the 25th. For free this time, not like what they did with Mulan. Sylvie's Love stars Tessa Thompson as Sylvie, a young woman in the 1950s working in her father's record store who meets an aspiring saxophone player, played by Nnamdi Asomugha, and the film chronicles their romance as they both try to work towards their respective dreams. This is yet another film that premiered at Sundance this year, and like Soul, is another film with a main character that's looking to be a jazz musician. This is written and directed by Eugene Ash, with this being his second film, and it received positive reviews when it premiered back at Sundance. And it seems like it's going to be very sweet. The costume design on this film looks astounding. It seems like it captures the look and feel of this different time period so well. And from a visual standpoint, it looks excellent, as it appears to be beautifully filmed. Though I'm mainly looking forward to this because of Tessa Thompson, who is always a joy to see. I'm sure her performance alone is going to be what makes this worth checking out. This hits Amazon Prime on the 25th. Wonder Woman 1984 sees Gal Gadot return once again as Wonder Woman, taking place in, you guessed it, 1984. She reunites with her love interest Steve Trevor, played again by Chris Pine, and finds herself facing two new foes: media businessman Maxwell Lord, played by Pedro Pascal, and her friend-turned-enemy Barbara, now going by Cheetah, played by Kristen Wiig. Given all the blockbusters that were pushed to next year, it's a shock that we're still getting this one, but hey, I'm not complaining. The first Wonder Woman was one of the few standouts in the early days of the DC Extended Universe, and this brings back most of the crew from that first film. Between that, and given the fact that the DCEU has been considerably better with their last few films, this should be a good time. When it comes to superhero films in general, though, I like to keep my expectations modest, as they are entertaining, but always have a lot of hype surrounding them, which can somewhat lead to a disappointing experience for me if I place those expectations too high. I'm sure it'll be fine though. This is getting released in both theaters and on HBO Max on the 25th. And finally, Pieces of a Woman stars Vanessa Kirby as Martha, who, along with her husband Sean, played by Shia LaBeouf, is on the verge of parenthood but loses her baby during childbirth at the hands of a midwife who now faces criminal charges. Now Martha must work through her grief, dealing with her husband, her domineering mother, and facing the midwife in court. This hit the festival circuit back in September and received a lot of positive reviews. It seems like it's a fairly somber film with a lot of melodrama, but the main reason it's getting so much attention is Vanessa Kirby, who I'm sure is being positioned for a possible Oscar consideration, as she seems like she's giving it her all here, and it's been said her performance is what makes the film. Though I'm sure we'll be treated to some fine performances all around, including from LaBeouf, who's made something of a career comeback lately, as well as Ellen Burstyn, who will be nice to see again, now playing Martha's mother. This gets a limited theatrical release on the 30th, followed by a Netflix release on January 7th. And that's that. The end of the year is always so jam-packed. There's a lot to look forward to, plus we'll get streaming releases of some movies from last month that I've yet to review, like Mank, Ammonite, and Sound of Metal, so it's going to be busy. I'll try to get to as many of these as I can, and there were still some movies from earlier this year that I saw and just haven't gotten to review, so we'll see how many of these I can crank out, because when we get to the end of this month, we'll have the best of the year list, the worst of the year list, and a few other lists that I have planned, so should be fun. Let me know though, what movies are you looking forward to in December? Was it anything I listed here? Anything I left off? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you next time.